Stay tuned for the Filmmaker Show next, right here on Long Island Cablevision Channel 20.
I absolutely love our theme song. What about you?
Oh, I just love it.
You know, I want to tell you today we're very honored to be here in Glen Cove, New York at the Tiki Recording Studio. And it's a great place. I mean, we got a great tour of it before, but more importantly, it is gorgeous. More importantly, Jan Guarino's husband, Fred, allowed us to use one of the recording rooms just as an art studio today. And you've been seeing a lot of posts by me about Jan Guarino. She's a world-renowned artist, great watercolorist, and I must say, as a graduate of IT New York City, she really knows her stuff. And today, looking only 20 years old, we bring in Jan Guarino. How are you?
Looking only 20, thank you, I like that.
20 years old is a great age.
I'll take it.
Jan, thanks for allowing us to do a show on you.
Thank
We're
you.
so very honored.
I'm honored, thank you so much for asking.
You know, your work, it speaks for itself.
Yep.
The tremendous care you put, yet you make it look easy, is something that I really marvel at, you know? As a commercial artist, I never went into fine art like this. So to watch it, I was like, wow, sure, that's great. And look at how it bleeds and it comes together.
Well, the techniques.
The techniques are amazing. And I love your jacket, by the way, so I have a question for you. Is that your favorite color, dragon orange? Really?
Oh, okay, Dragon's Blood is one
Dragon's
of
Blood,
Dragon's
yes.
Blood. It is one of my signature colors. My students all know that. I love it, sort of a orangey red color.
It is.
And now that I look at it, it kind of is a little like Dragon's Blood, yeah.
Well, seeing it on television before, it looks very close to it. In person, I think there's a little more blue in that red jacket.
I think you're
than there
right.
is,
Oh,
you know?
see, there you go.
Well, unfortunately, I took apart colors. And that was my world.
There you go.
So we've got some great questions for you, and
Shoot away.
I think that you'd be great at it. How do you feel about some questions today?
I'm all ears.
Well, you have to use your mouth, dear.
Okay, I'm all answers.
So let's get started.
Let's get started. Why don't you ask her the first question?
How did you know you wanted to get into painting?
The short answer is I didn't know, because I had been in marketing and advertising for so many years, and my training at FIT really prepared me for the advertising world. But it also prepared me for an understanding of color and how to draw and how to paint, and we got into the fine arts. So on one hand, I was prepared to stay in graphic design for as long as the industry had me. And of course, it's so changeable of what happened, you know, of late and everything going online, which didn't interest me. I like print, I like ink on paper. So I got asked to teach, and I didn't know I was a teacher. That's the truth. I had no idea I was able to teach this. But as soon as I started teaching my students how to see body forms and shapes and clothes on figures, those are the things that I learned at FIT, as well as seeing color in our world. I had one teacher who would show us how to draw and paint a live model, but with only colors, not flesh. How to see the greens and the blues and the violets and oranges in skin tone. So it sensitized my eye. And I think that really, I was prepared to do this, not knowing I was.
So Jan, I have a question for you. basically, how do you set up your palette, your colors? How do you work with them? I mean, between your water bowl and, let's say, the type of paper you're using, and let's say the way you have your artist's colors set up.
It's funny you should ask that, because it's a very good and basic question, but one that a lot of artists don't realize.
Sure.
If you're a righty, everything belongs on your right. Your palette, your brushes, and your water should be on your right. If you're lefty, you put it on the other side. So I actually have a video because it's so misunderstood and most people don't do it.
I think that's a great video. So guys, let's watch that video. We'll be right back.
I wanted to show you what I think is a great setup for your watercolors. This is, if you're right-handed. If you're left-handed, you do the exact opposite of what I have here. This is a dog water bowl that you could just flatten and be able to open up and put water and pretty much have it anywhere. So that's where I keep my water. I'm not a big worrywart about constantly changing my water to be fresh. I think it's okay if there's a little tint in it. So I'm not really overly worried about that. So immediately to my right is my water bowl. I have this really nice brush holder. The reason why I like having this here is because you could, before you get started, set up your brushes left to right, the largest away from me. This is one of my favorites. This is a silver black velvet number 20 that I got. I really like this brush for big washes. This, if you've watched any of my other videos, or if you haven't, you're going to want to see how I took an old sable brush and I made it into this really wonderful, sexy scumble magic brush. This is a synthetic, another synthetic. I just got this at the Met. I've seen them in lots of stores of museums. So this is about a number 10 and this is a number 4. Pretty much all I'm going to need right now. Maybe if you're doing architecture, you might add a flat angled brush. If you're doing something that requires a rigger, you might have your rigger ready to go. Here's one here. So you might have those if you think those are going to be things that are going to be in your painting. So this is my 33 palette for holding all of my colors. And this here is my, I had it a little upside down. This will be downloadable on my website, fearlesswatercolors.com, which is all the colors that I use and a little test strip. We're going to be showing that in future videos. And I have it set up where I have my nice dark indigo and my blues. I go into my cool violets, into my warm violets, pinks, reds, oranges, some yellows, going back down here, into my greens. So it sort of makes a logical sense to me how it works. You need to set up yours so that it makes sense for you. I don't mix in my palette, and on future basic videos I'm going to be telling you why I don't, but basically it's because I get better colors and better results when I actually drop color right onto my paper. But right now we're just talking about your basic setup. Under here is a dish rag. It's one of those things that you would just put your wet dishes on and it absorbs the water. I like to have this here because one of the things that you want to do is control how much water is on your brush at any time. And if there's too much water on your brush, I just use this as a way to just take off just enough water off my brush, or sometimes paint off my brush without flicking it. I've seen a lot of demos and teachers when they're out in the field or they're in an old place, they might just flick it to just get that extra water off of their brush. You're not always in a place that you could do that, so I use this. It's a nice way to replace paper towels and dish rags and everything else. This dish drying mat is really one of the great things that I've discovered. So to me, this is your basic setup. You should have this here ready to go. Water, paintbrushes, ready to go with your paints and everything is right there. You're not reaching over anything.
Now you see, that's a good video, and I must say, to watch it, that answers a lot of questions for beginners and intermediate and even some of the seasoned pros. And you're right, I've seen it myself. If you're working here, you don't want to cross your hand
Exactly.
because you wind up with this whole sleeve of color.
It's true.
How many times I've seen storyboard artists in advertising do the same thing, and suddenly you look at their, oh, you must be a storyboard artist. Well, yeah, the markers. Used to break open the glass markers, and they used to rub the paper, and then on acetate would be the drawing, similar to the rotoscope of cartooning back then.
Yeah.
So, why don't you ask her the second question?
So what type of things do you like to paint?
I'm really inspired by so many things in my world. It could be a gesture somebody is making, the way a child is sitting on the beach. It could be an instrument in a museum, the way it's lit. I never really know what it is that is going to inspire me, but I discover it sometimes during the painting process. I say, oh, that's it, that's the pull. Sometimes I know ahead of time, sometimes I don't. But it's a very, very varied array of things that interest me. And that makes it really fun and exciting and a joy, really, because you could look at your world in such a unique way and find a desire, a yearning to paint everywhere.
So, why don't you ask her the second question, dear?
All right.
See her question skills. All right, go for it.
It's my turn. My turn now. Where did you go to school?
Hey, wait! Before you answer that. And how did you develop your cool schooling at FIT into your career?
I didn't know what I wanted to do in high school. I knew I wanted to revolve around art, and I discovered something called commercial art. I didn't know what that was. I didn't understand that advertising was a thing. And I got in between high school and college, I got a job at an ad agency. And they had everything sort of there. They had the artists that I learned typesetting, I learned illustration, I learned the gamut. And I understood what this world was before I went to FIT. And when I got to FIT, I was so prepared for exactly what logo design, brochures, ad campaigns, I was raring to go. So in addition to the illustration part of FIT, which is what I majored in, illustration, upon graduation, it was the advertising side that really had the real momentum for a career. And that's what I stayed in for the next 40 years, was in advertising, in marketing, in graphic design. And that was, and I went after B2B clients, so it was all business to business, not really anything consumer oriented.
I'm going to give you a turn.
I get a turn to ask my own questions on my own show, why not?
I'll share. Sharing is caring.
She throws me a bone once in a while. All right, let me ask you a very important question. Who are your influences that really you inspire? And I know you don't want to be like them, but you draw from them. Who would they be?
So the answer isn't quite as simple as that, because very early on I was taking a lot of classes with many different teachers and instructors, and what I didn't get from them, I tried to get from others. And when I started teaching, I created my curriculum from what I needed as a student and didn't get. So yeah, so that was a big part of it. So they influenced me, but not in a way of, oh, let me do what they do or how they do it, but in a way like, yeah, that didn't work for me, so I'm tempted to think it's not the right fit for me. I want to teach the way I wanted to learn and didn't get taught that way. With that said, I still take many workshops and whatnot to this day, And as a student in those workshops, I not only observe the teacher, but I'm observing what's going on in the classroom and what the students are getting and how that works for them, and again, what doesn't work. So it's a little bit of both. I'll draw upon those things that I see working for students, and then the things that I feel aren't, I don't do.
So my question to you, if I'm allowed to ask her one, dear.
Be my guest.
Thank you. You began working on a portrait in one of your videos using paint with no graphic marks. You didn't have any outlines. You began working with the brush and you began working with the child's eyes. And what you talked about in the video was interesting. So give us an idea of how that worked while we actually see the video.
Sure. One of the things that we work with when we're starting before we paint, is we want to start with a contour drawing. That's what we're looking for. Within that contour drawing, we find the marks we need to paint. So it's not a sketch. It's a very different type of process. And so when I'm doing a portrait, we want to start with the eyes, because if you get the eyes, you have the soul of the person. The rest is a cakewalk. The eyes are what are the most expressive, and that's where we start when we're doing a portrait generally.
Now, a follow-up to that question is, do you use a template? I mean, it seemed like it came out of nowhere on a brush. And it's like, wow, this girl is either really magic and we got to hire her to do magic tricks, or I don't know how she did that. How did that all come about?
Well, I will tell you that, my students will say, that I make it look so easy. And all I could say is, I'm sorry. I apologize. It's just that I do it so much and I understand what the marks are needed to get to where I want to go. And that's the teaching process. So that's how I explain it to them, is let me show you where I start and how I get there and why I'm doing what I'm doing, so that you can, if you don't get it this time, the second time you watch the video or you try it, you'll understand and you'll get it from that perspective.
That was beautiful. That was really well done. I mean, I don't have that art in me to do that. Me, it's like a fast story, bitch, boom, 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 done. And, with the onslaught of the computers, working in the different graphic programs, I had to say, you'll lose a lot of that instrument out of your hand. But beautiful job, nice video. Mm-hmm. And I just love the way she did that with the child's eyes.
Yes.
Your turn, dear. Ask her another question.
You sure you don't want another crack at it?
All right, let me put you on a spot. Tell us about yourself. I want to hear your likes, your dislikes, what you do, what you don't do, how you take apart people's artwork in supermarkets like I do and curse them out for bad lettering. Go for it.
Well, I think I always was an artist on some level, and it was just a natural way for me to express myself, to go into marketing and advertising and, do that. FIT opened up a tremendous amount of opportunities in terms of painting and drawing and understanding the model form and whatnot. So I think it's not just what I did, but it is who I am. Mm-hmm. And very early on, when I met my husband, when he had this recording studio, I created his graphic design for him. I'd be like, let's make cold calls, let's get clients. I mean, this was just sort of innately in me to do this. And it just was a very natural progression of how I started networking and building my agency. And at one point, I had so much work. I had a day staff and a night staff. It was, we had it in the same building as the recording studio. So it really developed into something that we very much did together as a couple. And I'm proud of that we actually had both of our businesses in the same building, and there was no forthcoming divorces coming up. You know, it's like, okay. So, yeah, I know, people like, beware of that, it's gonna be a divorce. But we, you know, we really respected each other's space, and the way in which we ran our businesses were very different, and we respected that. And we didn't take it home with us. So it was very much inside of me to do this. So it's not just what I do, but it's who I am.
So, what's your question to me, dear?
What do you hate?
Well, first of all, this is her show. However, since you now gave me the camera to talk, do you know what I hate the most?
What?
What do you hate the most?
Oh!
Oh, here we go.
I knew you'd ask me this question. I knew she'd ask me this question. I hate bad typesetting. So please allow me to show you all a beautiful piece of typesetting. May I borrow your little card?
Oh, by all means.
Thank you, dear.
There you go.
Thank you. Someone knows how to set type. Let me give you a quick education. Notice, this is called the leading, and people are going to go, I know. This is called the kerning, which if you understood and went to art school, not the local high school guys, you bag a sand and you drop it in, and each of those grains match the same bag. That's how you space it. And yes, there's wide tracking, and then there's tight kerning. I get that. But readability is why you set type. Your typeface is really important. Let's take a look at how she set this up. Notice top center, but it's not stacked. She staggered the words fine art. She brought it under there so we have one complete thought. And now underneath it, flush right, she did a great job, again, letting and kerning so that you can read it. Got it? Read it. If you see these blazing, strange typefaces in an ad, I'm really sorry, you can't read it. And that's what I hate. I just got a video, thank you, and I want to tell you, I felt so bad because somebody in there told me, can you rate this? I put it on, and the leading was here to here on the title, and I looked at it, and right out of the gate, it's not a good video, let alone watch it. And you could stick a mailbox or a mail truck through it.
It's painful. It's painful.
Very painful.
It is painful. But it comes natural to us. We've been doing it and we understand it. This all came very natural, the size proportion. You probably have heard this 1,000 times in marketing. And the client is asking, can you make the logo bigger? Make the logo bigger. And it throws everything.
And can you just
off.
stretch it so the AT&T ball looks like an egg?
There's a balance and there's an understanding to composition. And when I happen to be naturally good at it, probably from the years that I've done it, but it transcends into a piece of art and how to frame it as well. What you want the viewer to focus on, and what's primary and what's secondary.
And that's how your one love fed into another love.
Absolutely.
And how your composition in paintings fit the form properly.
Yeah.
And there's something to your eye that goes around the page. You don't want your eye off the page. No. You want that to stay within and be drawn around back to the beginning.
Yep.
How many people don't know that today, dear? That's all the humbug I want to talk about. And with that, I want to just say thank you to Jan Guarino, amazing artist, watercolorist, teacher, fine artist in the greatest sense. Graduate from FIT, amazing school in New York City, and we're honored, Joann and I,
Yes, we are.
to have you here.
I had a blast. You guys are simply
It's so
the best.
enjoyable.
I know. I feel
Hold
like
it. You mentioned good looking, please.
I feel like I've known you guys forever.
I know. I
It's
love
so fun, and
family.
you made this just such a wonderful experience, and I thank you guys so much, Jerry, for reaching out to me. I appreciate it. I really do. And this is just a hoot.
It was a lot of fun.
Fantastic.
And for you folks out there, barring the typesetters, we at the Filmmaker Show are now going on location. So if you've got something interesting that you want us to put on Channel 20, then please let us know. Write to me at gparisi2@yahoo.com. You could also write to Joann, but she's probably going to put together a cooking thing. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you on the next The Best of the Filmmaker Show.